We're safe here. Yes, we're safe, Father. These words were spoken by father and daughter before they were caught. Frank, who was in his 50s, and his daughter Ruth, who was about 8 years old, moved to Portland, Oregon from Tacoma, Washington. Frank, a Vietnam veteran, was hoping to find a job. His wife was institutionalized for her mental health. Father and daughter were living on only $400 a month from his disability benefits. That's a car payment, and 1/4 of what rent cost at the time. Frank went to interviews after interviews with no luck. And ultimately, he was left with a very tough question. How do I raise my daughter the way she needs me to raise her? Frank didn't want Ruth to be out on the streets with him. He wanted to keep her safe from drugs, alcohol, violence. And then Frank made the riskiest decision, hoping that it would be the right one. He decided to live where no one else could tell them how to live or what to do. They took their belongings, sleeping bags, tent, some of their cookware, into Portland's Forest Park. The 5,000-acre wooded land stretched into Portland along the Willamette River. Frank and Ruth were always careful not to be seen. They walked different paths. They made sure the fire was put out before dusk. Frank had made a wooden shelter that was covered by tarp. It wasn't the most comfortable home, but it kept them safe from the elements. Every day began just like the last. Breakfast, reading, observing, tending to the garden, getting food and supplies from the city when they needed it. Frank's head was on a swivel, and he taught his daughter to do the same. Frank homeschooled Ruth using encyclopedias and a Bible, and this instilled the passion for learning in Ruth. She loved to read. Learning about the world and how it works for her was like moth to a flame. If Ruth didn't know what to do, she'd read. If Ruth had an argument with her father, she'd read. Frank used the nearby creek to store non-perishable foods, and they made sure to go to church every Sunday. At night, they'd read together and fall asleep listening to the sounds of the woods. No harm could come to them. Frank always made sure of that. Until one day, Frank and Ruth heard rustling nearby, broken branches underneath feet. Someone was moving in fast. Both Frank and Ruth froze, trying to keep still, but it was too late. They had been seen. Frank looked at his daughter and she understood. Leaving everything behind, they both ran as fast as they could. They had gone undetected for 4 years in solitude. A radio call to the Portland police came in when a cross-country runner was scouting for routes in the wooded area. The runner saw a man in his 50s with bushy white hair with a young girl, about 12 years old, camping in a dugout. He described what he came across as suspicious. When the call came in, Sergeant Michael Barkley sent officers in droves to find out what was going on. All-terrain vehicles were deployed and search dogs were right by their side. And after 2 days, a police dog found father and daughter 50 yards from their camp, hiding behind a tree. Ruth scared, Frank worried about what will happen next. They were both taken into custody, and an investigation began. A pediatrician examined Ruth, and she was as healthy as any child could be. No signs of abuse, not even one cavity. No harm was done to her. And Frank's background check came back clean. 4 years of living in Forest Park, and no harm done. One officer even made a note saying that Ruth was so well-spoken, way beyond her years. She was the age of a 7th grader, but her reading level was at the age of a high school senior. Because Frank took such good care of Ruth, the officers began to wonder, what do they do next? Do they put Ruth in foster care? Do they separate them? Please, please don't take me away from my father, she kept begging. Sergeant Barkley and North Precinct Officer Joe Campbell, who were leading the search, brought them to a shelter after they convinced them not to return to their camp. Instead of leaving these two at a shelter or separating them, Sergeant Barkley found Frank a job and a place for them to live in on his friend's horse farm in Yamhill City, which was about 40 miles from Portland. Frank and Ruth were adjusting to living with running water, heat, electricity, all the things that they had learned to survive without. Frank tried his best to return living in society, working, living in a home. Frank was even mowing lawns, and he was learning how to drive a tractor on the farm. The duo even rode bikes to church every Sunday, but all of that would come to an end. When Sergeant Barkley came to visit Frank and Ruth one day, Frank told him they loved being on the farm. They were both happy, but Frank felt like they were being hunted. Frank would see helicopters flying low over the farm every now and then. Frank told Barkley that he wanted to leave the state. Their privacy was in jeopardy, and when police officers talked to news directors in the area, they all said that none of the helicopters were theirs, but Frank wasn't going to risk it. They gathered their belongings, put them in backpacks that they could carry. They said thank you to the owners of the farm, and after they finished packing, they walked out the front door. Frank and Ruth had vanished. They were headed into Oregon's coastal range. Barkley searched high and low, but they could be anywhere at this point. Their survival skills were great. And just like that, no one heard from them ever again. Ruth would be in her 30s right now. Homelessness didn't keep Frank from preparing his daughter to face the world. Ruth may not have had many things that children grow up with today, but Frank made sure that she had a good heart. Where are they now? What could they be doing? Did they finally leave the state? There are so many questions circling this case, and we may never find answers to them. If you like chilling or mysterious stories with a dash of strange, you're in the right place. And if you liked this video, please like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.